Alrighty. Okie dokie. So I made this little state management tool and I called it Easy State. And effectively what it does is it's a wrapper around like you don't need to use it with use context. It's really a wrapper around set state. You can use a context and set that as your value. But the beauty of it is it allows you to just do all these simple things that you would typically do if you had like, let's say you had a state that was simply just an array, right? Like I tend to use that pattern a lot with like if I do use context, use reducer, and then I create a custom like use provider and I do all that stuff. But then I have to make all the methods each time. And I basically just decided why not make a quick wrapper for that? Because I basically use the same methods every time. And if I need to not use the same methods, I can always just make a custom one. So it's not very hard once you get into custom hooks. So the strategy is kind of like this. Let's first, right now, these don't do anything. Here's my little to-do app. It's the greatest to-do app you've ever seen in your life. And basically what we need to do is, I don't know, we need to try out some different stuff that we can do with this library. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to my app. And you know what? Let's get rid of all this just so that way we can sort of talk about how this works. So basically all I'm going to do is, we got a lot of, what am I missing here? Can't find name to-dos. Okay, we'll get that in a second. So basically what I need to do is I need to first create a state for to-dos. So we'll start with that. And we use my useEasyState hook. And basically the way that you have to pull it in is that hook doesn't actually know about what you're going to call your state. So we can also just say state, and then we'll import it as to-dos equals useEasyState. Bam. Expected 1 to 2 argument. What I mess up? Because useEasyState needs an initial state. Right. That was a simple mistake. Okay, cool. So useEasyState is basically just going to need an initial state, which will be an empty array for now. Or if we want, we can go ahead and use these to-dos that we have here. These initial to-dos, we'll use those. So cool. Initial to-dos, and we can pass in the type for that. So I created a type for a to-do, just called a hi to-do, and it's actually a super simple type. Can't find name add to-do. Oh, that's just because, well, I did not. That was just because I forgot to delete it, and then I deleted all that stuff before. But yeah, so right now we have a state of to-dos that's basically set up. So this would be almost exactly like being like const state, and I'll tell you what else we can get here. We can get the yeah, you'll see. We can also grab just the set to-dos, and that would just be set state, and then we get that as set to-dos. That way we don't have to worry about namespace issues, right? And this is actually basically the same thing as doing this, like const to-dos set to-dos equals useEasyState. So if you just wanted to do that, I would not use useEasyState. You're about to see some of the beauty of it in a minute. So now we have our initial to-dos sort of set up. And you know what? Here's the thing. I want to make it to where when I type something in here, it adds an item. Right now, it's just a little controlled form I made. And, you know, you could do like the typical way of doing that would be like you would do set. I guess you would do set to-dos to. We can start with that just to prove that that works. So I'll go ahead and when you do this submit thing, this add to do won't work. So what we could do is I could say set to do and set to dos, and we'll set it to the current state of to dos, and then the new to do, which will give it a fake ID of date.now. That's what that code I had in before there was, and then we can give it a content of, I guess you pull it out from the input. So the input is just a little state that I'm tracking using a controlled form. Then we have this, bam, cool. And that's really nothing special. We effectively just created a set state token, and there's a wrapper around it. But let's go ahead and make it a little bit more concise by we're going to go ahead and import the add state feature that the useEasyState has. So now we don't really need this set state anymore. And instead, what we're going to do is add item to state as add to do, right? So now if I go to add, now all I got to do here is say, oh, okay, what's the to do that I want to plug in? Plug it there. Bam. Sweet. Okay, that doesn't really save a whole lot of code, but it's a little bit nice. I like that. All right, so let's think of something else we can add. You know what? I want to order these. I would like to order them by the length of the content. So what I could do is I could pull in, oh, whoops, not there. That's not where that would go. I could pull in order by, and we'll call it, I don't know, order to do, right? This one's a little tricky because I had to create a specific type for the callback handler on this, and it's a little finicky. So you actually have to make a callback handler outside. The other callbacks, it's not an issue, but since the JavaScript sort callback is naturally a little bit more finicky, when you go to TypeScript, it says it has to like return a number. I had to create some types, and I couldn't quite figure out how to get it to be completely generalized. So basically the way that you have to do it is, maybe we'll say we want to sort by content. So we could say sort by content callback or something like that. Bam. And this is just going to be a callback. It's going to be of the type, basically, and this is the weird syntaxy stuff. You have to set it as a type of order callback, which is something that I give you in the useEasyState library. Anyways, we do that, and then we also have to instantiate it with the type that we're iterating over. So in our case, it'll be our I to do. And effectively, what we would want to return here, this works exactly like the sort function in JavaScript, except for, you don't have to worry about like mutating one thing. I mean, you're changing the state anyway. So let's say we have to do A, which is a to do, and then to do B, which is also a to do, right? Maybe we want to do A dot content dot length minus to do B dot content dot length. All right, awesome. And now what we can do is we'll just make a little button that maybe sorts this. So I'll just do a little, it'll be ugly, but it'll be at the top here. Bam. On click equals, basically we'll just go ahead and invoke this sort. So we can do our now order to do's, and all this does is take a callback. And so our sort by content callback, and that should be the trick. Maybe should give this button some text. Sort by content. Bam. Cool. So now it's sorted it that way. If I wanted to do the opposite way, I could do to do B, to do A, sort by content, flips it around. Nice. Let's see what else we got in here. And here's where TypeScript support is really nice. You can kind of just poke around in here, Command space on VS Code, and you can look at all this. Cycle left. I wonder what that does. Cycle right. Remove item. Remove items where. Reset state. Set state. We can go through all these. In fact, I will go through all of them because screw it. I spent a whole day on this shit. Why not? All right. So let's go to cycle left. So cycle left, and we'll put it as cycle to do's. So cycle left and also cycle right will be pretty obvious when I go through this. I thought that this would be a useful little hook into in order to basically, let's say you have a slideshow. A slideshow, you take the element on the the first thing of the array and you dump it into the last. I mean, that's one way you could do it. You could also do it with like an index, but then you need to create another piece of state in React. So if you're just mutating the state to change it so where the first goes to the end goes, over one spot, then this would be like a cycle left feature. So what I can go ahead now do is maybe we'll change this to say, I don't know, cycle left. And it's obviously not really going to be left because it's up, down, but I couldn't think of a better name. So cool. Now what I can do is just go ahead here and say cycle left. And I should be able to invoke that. Expected one argument. Let's see. Oh, probably because I need cycle to do's. There we go. Bam, 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 bam. So that's pretty nice. It's easy. It does exactly what you need it to do. In the case where like maybe you're making a slideshow, it's super easy to just dump in there. You have a slideshow. I mean, like you don't need to import any of those. So you just have your state and your cycle left. Bam, done. Another really useful one is like the swap one. So imagine a circumstance where I click these edit buttons and it opens up a modal where I can edit some stuff. And then I basically just have to pass in the object that I want to control whether or not it's in there. That's when we can use like SwapItem. So we can go ahead and say swap. Actually, let me just leave that in there so it doesn't break. And then here we can say swap item with actually we'll do swipe auto and we'll call swap to do or whatever. Cool. So now we have our swap to do, and maybe what we can do is when we edit it, I don't know, we'll do something a little hacky just because I don't want to really create a whole modal form, but like I think you get the idea. Even if I did that, I think I should have a edit. Yeah. So for each of these to-do items that I'm mapping over, I have a little edit function. So I could say, we'll swap it with a dummy one. So I'll say swap to do, and then I really just need the one that I'm swapping. So in that case, it's the to-do that's being rendered here. And then the replacement can basically go ahead and be, okay, my ID is going to be, I'll do date.now so that way there's no key issues. Force that to be an integer or a number at least. And then we can do content. And you know what? We'll just make one up. We'll swap it with replaced. And I haven't actually tested this one out yet, so we'll find out. Boop, boop. Oh, that didn't work. Okay. Well, that sucks. Swap to do. Swap item with. To be debugged later. Did I import it in my? It would be in my useEasyState. Swap. Well, I'm not going to stress too much about that now. Item to swap replacement. I'm already done with the state in. Yeah, I'm not going to. That's another time. Make it refresh and try it one more time. Oh, you know what it is? I never hooked up the edit function. It's all just edit. Oh, I guess I did hook it up just incorrectly. Let's see if this works. Hey, it works. Cool. So that means the library was actually working. I was surprised that it wasn't working because I actually fixed those functions. So cool, that works. You can also swap like all that match some sort of criteria. So for example, maybe I want to fix all replaced values. We can make that work nicely. So let's say I want to do swap all where we'll say swap all to-dos where. Cool. And now what I can do is, since I already have the thing making the content replaced, it'll be a really nice example. We'll just work with that. So what I could do is maybe this one will do, I don't know, we could say replace all replaced. And then I can say swap all to-dos where, and then here it should really just be a callback. Let me make sure on that. Where's my, yeah. So I need the replacement and a callback. So maybe I will replace them with a to-do, and my callback will basically be where the to-do to-do's content is equal to replaced or something like that. And we can replace it with ID of date.now, content of Flippy Schnitz. So there we go. So first, let's go ahead and do one of these. Bam, bam, and hey, look at that. I replaced all the things that said replaced with Flippy Schnitzel. So there's a nice little useful one. Another one that I find super useful is a toggle state. So actually, I probably wouldn't use the toggle state on the same one as the to-dos. I might use like another state for selected to-dos. So I might do something like const state selected, whatever. We'll just do selected for now, and then we'll do toggle. Oh, let's first do the equals use easy state, and then this time we can say also with I to do, because they're just going to be selected to do's. And this time it's just going to be an empty array. And now we can toggle the item existence of basically a toggle the items, and we'll say toggle selected or something like that, right? So now what I might do is I'll just make it to where this edit button like actually controls whether or not it's selected. And maybe I will, yeah. So what I can do is, let's see. For each of these, let's see, each of these to-dos, I can go ahead, instead of the swap to-do, we can say toggle selected, and then I should be able to, hang on. So basically, it's just the item. So in this case, it would be the to-do. So now in my selected state, I should be getting to-dos added each time. Now you could do whatever you want with that. What you would probably do is like some form of conditional rendering, right? You would say like, oh, okay, if this to-do is selected, do this thing, right? I just found this is logic that I found myself doing all the time. Cool. So I should have two easy states. Let's see. So now when I do this, should add one in there, do that. Those are my selected states. If I hit it again, toggle, bam, gone. Bam, gone. So this would be a really good way of like, here, let me see if I have my, yeah, here's a little photo picker album I was making. This is the ugliest part of the app that I've been working on. But like, for example, that's how you would accomplish using useEasyState, something like this fairly quickly. Also, I never tested that one before, so I'm really happy that that demonstration worked well. All right, so what else is there? I think we also have remove item, so that's a pretty easy one. Reset state, toggle items. I mean, we covered the main important ones. I think the other ones are very obvious. Like cycle right is obviously the opposite of cycle left. Remove item, it's literally just you dump in an item and it removes it. So yeah, you can do like, a lot of people are used to writing the code like, I don't know, set like state, and then the you could do like state dot filter state state dot whatever. You get the idea. It takes 5 seconds to do something like that. But the reason why I think it's maybe a bad idea to just write that all over the place is it's just another spot that you could have a stupid bug. And it's like, for me, maybe the performance losses associated with, like, I don't know, passing these functions around everywhere are, to me, less significant than the amount of bugs you introduce when you have a bunch of pieces of state. The last thing I'd like to show is that I'm not going to actually get it to 100% work, but you can take this and make like a custom provider from it. So I'm actually pretty fresh into TypeScript. So I'm not super great at that component of things yet. But the way that I would talk about like how you would do this, there's like a guy named, like, I think he's a Kent Dodd state management. And this library, yeah, I love this article. This is actually what inspired the whole kind of NPM module here. And basically what he does is he creates, so in other words, he creates, let's see. I've done it a million times in JavaScript, and I know I can get it to work in JavaScript in 5 seconds, but I'm fairly certain it would take me a minute to figure out in TypeScript. So I'll make that another video, but just to show you the idea, like here. So he's creating account provider, and it's like a custom provider. And really what he does is he dumps it all into he dumps it all into one folder, one file. I don't know if you need to do that, but basically he does a few things in it. He creates a context. He creates a provider for that context where like the value is already set. And here he uses useReducer. And basically all you would need to do to get all the features that I just showed you, but instead of being like local state, it would be global state. All you would need to do is, instead of using useReducer here, you just use useEasyState. And then instead of pulling out state and dispatch here, right? You could just like destructure it and dump it in there, and it wouldn't really be an issue. I don't know 100% on how TypeScript responds to that. Like, I would need to fuck around with it for a bit. But the concept is you get all those functions for free whenever you import it now. And to me, that's basically what my library is for. It's basically like this specific design pattern happens to work really well when you're just working with like an array of data. So like, object 1, object 2, object 3, and there tends to be like a very consistent amount of like repeatable code that you wind up doing for those sorts of things. So I don't have this like included in my current project that I've been working on, but like I can't show you all the code for it because classified and whatnot. But the general concept is you would have like your providers are each layer is just like representing your array of that thing. So it's maybe not as flexible as something like Redux, and probably not quite as like blistering fast, but you can get it set up really fast because basically you create, this file, and if you wanted to, you don't need this. If you wanted to use EasyState, what is my hook called? I think it's called EasyState, whatever. If you wanted to use EasyState, you don't need a reducer because I built the reducer for you. It's basically effectively what the library is, right? So you can just get rid of this, and then this is basically your boilerplate code for one state other than the reducer. And then you can dump them in, like, let's say you have your app, your return value for your app. It would look something like, this would be a provider, provider for, we'll call it favorites or something like that, right? Favorites provider. And then you might have like your posts provider, right? And then you might have your smiles provider, whatever. and you create all of those using the use easy state. If you want to, you could also do something else for a different state. That's kind of like the nice thing about context is you can kind of drop it in however you want. It's not super rigid on what you have to use. And if you want to use something that's an array and you know exactly what you're going to be doing, you can do that. And then you can just go ahead and, your app logic can go in here. And then in any of your components, let's say all these were like the use easy state hook. In any of your components, then you could basically dump in import, use favorites, right? And then you could say const. What you should be able to do is basically const, this is where you get all this destructuring from. All this would work globally as well. I haven't done it yet, but it should. There's really no reason why it wouldn't. So you can go in here and be like, oh, okay, cool. So it's it pairs nicely with that. Yeah, that's use useEasyState. I'd like to get this published on NPM. I've never done that before, so it seems like a nice little hook though. So hopefully someone will benefit from it. Any advice is well received. I love feedback. Yeah, that's it. Thank y'all.